All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Uncle Sonny Live Project, where we are having conversations with different thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and creatives, all about the different mindset that you need to have to move from an employee to an entrepreneur, to live a life by design instead of by default. Today, we have a very, very special guest. We go way back like rims on a Cadillac. Yes, indeed. Met back in college years and years and years ago. She's been a major inspiration in my life. She is the founder of the Live Rich movement. She is an alignment and empowerment coach, and she's here to take you to the next level. Thank you so much for talking with us today. We have Erica Lasan. How are you doing?
Oh my goodness, I'm so good. The introduction was so bomb. Thank you, Sal. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. I'm super excited to jump into this and see exactly what entrepreneurship is like from your perspective. I know I was on the outside looking in early on, and it inspired me. It sparked something in me. So I'm excited to see what that was like from your perspective. But before we jump in, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself and let us know where you came from, what your journey was like, and what you're here and where we're headed.
So my name is Erica Lasan of the Live Rich movement, ericalasan.com. I am an alignment and empowerment strategist, as Tal mentioned. And what that means is that I help people who are in transitional phases of life navigate the steps to what's next, and I help them do this by envisioning what a happy, healthy, and purpose-filled life looks like. And then I help them map out the steps to get there. So that's what I do. And I really just want people to live like happy, healthy lives. What does joy look like for you? What is your purpose? And how are you making sure that you're moving in it on a daily basis? That's my job. And I help people do that in a number of ways.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So what has it been like for you to find something that you're passionate about and be able to monetize that?
So finding something, it's been a journey. Let me just put that out there, okay? It's been a journey of almost 2 decades. It really just dawned on me a couple of months ago that I actually became an entrepreneur when I was 13. Like, it really hit me that I've always had this entrepreneurial mindset, and I've always had this entrepreneurial energy. And I've always known that I want to create a life based on the things that I enjoy doing and that I do well. But that monetization piece, that really didn't start clicking until maybe, I don't know, like it really started maybe about a decade ago, but in terms of how I could really sustain it, that didn't start happening. I would even say until up to maybe a year ago. So it's definitely been a process. It's been a journey, but there's been so much that's been learned throughout the past 2 decades. Once I realized, I can make money doing things that I enjoy, and thank God I learned it early. And it was an accidental thing. It started off as an accidental hobby. I was making handmade jewelry. And I didn't even like wearing earrings at the time. So the way that even happened was kind of like a God thing. And once I realized that people would pay me to do things that I liked, I was like, oh snap, I want to do more of this all the time. And just figuring out new ways to do it and ways that were in line with what I wanted to do versus things that I felt like I had to do. But even getting to that didn't happen until I graduated from college, and I realized I couldn't get a job doing the things that I thought I wanted to do. So it was like a matter of trying to figure out how to create new ways to put myself in a position to go where I wanted to versus settling where I thought I had to.
Mm-hmm. Right. Beautiful stuff. When did you, what was it like realizing that you were an entrepreneur?
What it was like, it was like freedom. It's like,
You mentioned that you realized that you were an entrepreneur since you were 13.
Yes. So I guess the only reason why I really because I've always known that I was doing stuff like this, but I think it just hit different as an adult, and just thinking of all of the ways that sometimes we feel like we have to do things based on what other people expect of us, or based on where society tells us we should go, or the directions that we think we should go in. But and it dawned on me probably last year that a full year of trying to figure out how to monetize it sustainably. But I was making like really good money as a 13-year-old. Like it's kind of crazy. Like I always had wads of cash. And for some reason, and I think it maybe has something to do with age and like thinking like you have the time in the world and you can do whatever you want because you don't really have any responsibilities. You know, like you're just free to think and be and grow and do the things that you enjoy as a child. And I think that maybe once I hit my college years, for a little while, I lost sight of that. And then that's where the whole idea of trying to look for a job and like do the cookie cutter corporate thing, you know, kind of came in. And I feel like I had to rediscover that part of myself coming out of college. And then even as I transitioned through parenthood, you know, like rediscovering, because I'm a stay-at-home mom as I am while also being an entrepreneur. And I had to kind of tap back into that innate sense of being and recognizing like, okay, whatever it is that you feel right now, you still have the power to control your destiny. You still have the power to create and manifest whatever it is that you want. So through doing work that has led me to the type of work that I do, I've created processes. I went through a process, but I've also been able to create processes to help people engage with their purpose and their gift in that same way, to help them get out of the mindset of like what they think they have to do and start doing more of what they actually want to do. And if that's being an entrepreneur, then do that. If it's, I don't know, traveling Europe for a year, then do that. Like whatever it is that you want to do, do it. And there are more ways to get there than you often realize.
Right. So what does that process look like coming from somebody who has maybe a limited mindset, a lot of limiting beliefs and mental blockages, to the freedom and essentially the guts to follow your guts, to go ahead and, you know, just go for it? What does the process look like?
The process looks ugly. I'm not even gonna lie. It is a process that requires it requires work and it requires surrender. And as you surrender, you're able to build your faith, not only in yourself, but in something that's bigger than you, which then leads you to your calling and your purpose. So the process looks like a lot of tears. It looks like a lot of facing your fears. The process looks like a lot of feeling like you may be failing in the moment. But then knowing that through all of those ugly things, there's like beauty and growth. And also recognizing that each time you have those instances, once you're able to make it through the other side, you have so much to learn. You would have learned so much that will help you along the way, but not only just yourself, the other people around you who may be dealing with some of the same types of things. So it's an ugly process, but it's beautiful at the same time. I wouldn't take any of it back.
Yes, indeed. It's all a part of the beauty, the yin and the yang, right?
Right? You gotta.
Yes, indeed. That's what my process actually did look like. You know, I just recorded a video. It was a TikTok, so it was pretty short and sweet, straight to the point. But it went something about, I identified how I cried, I screamed, I fought, I resisted. I did all of these different things, and that was the darkness. That was the part. That was the challenge. You know, the difficult side of it. But once I surrendered, like you said, jumped right out to me, that's when things started to get better. When you start to trust the process, and a lot of people say trust the process, but recently I've become attracted to an idea of trusting your process, because the process is kind of like a one size fits all. Like, yeah, trust the process, you know, you're gonna go through this and this. But no, that's what you went through, and that's how you were able to respond to it. But I'm not necessarily gonna experience it the same way. So knowing that my journey is an individual one, you know, I think it is super empowering.
Yes. And it's beautiful because even with what you mentioned in resisting, like, I feel like once you surrender to the resisting, once you stop resisting and you just surrender, I think that you mentioning the process is a really, really big part of it as well, because like you said, it is an individual's process, you know, like even with the type of work that I do, right? The reason why I say alignment and empowerment is because my process isn't going to be everybody's process. I can give you a skeleton, you know, of what I did, but it's really ultimately up to you, or my client, to do the work, you know, right, and recognizing what that process brings up for them so that we can navigate the space for them specifically. There really is no cookie cutter one size fits all, because everybody comes from different places. Everybody has different backgrounds. Everybody has a different understanding and way of processing things. But I also think that what's really important to mention in considering what my process was, I feel like the part of the process that was always there and what I really had to lean on to get to even this point where I can now like help others in surrendering was accept my faith, you know? So there was also a whole spiritual process, a whole process of spiritual growth that had to occur for me to even get to this place. And when I think of the process and what you mentioned about the individual, the beautiful thing is that once you surrender in faith, right, to something that's bigger than you, someone that is bigger than you, and I call him Jesus/God, you know, the beautiful thing is he knows each and every single one of us, right? Like he knows us better than we know ourselves. Like all these questions that we have about ourselves, all of the uncertainty, the doubt, the fear, like all of the little knickknacks that are in our mind and in our being. He understands. Not only does he understand them, he knows how to best use them for his glory and for his good. So that part of the process has been really freeing because like, he will, if you ask for the guidance and if you surrender to his process to get you to where you need to be, you'll always be exactly where you need to be when you need to be there, and you'll land where you need to land.
Right. I think that the scariest thing you can do is surrender. So when you decide to actually do that, that's when all the other fears kind of get chunked, kind of get knocked out the way. I've done the scariest thing I could do is just allow, you know, and once I've done that, it doesn't make sense to be afraid of anything else. Is that in your experience as well?
Yeah, it really doesn't. But also in knowing that once you've surrendered and you're surrendering to something that's bigger than you and something that is something that has always been meant for you, because it's so in tune with who you are. And that's why a big part of what I promote and teach and encourage is the need for purpose. Like once you recognize what your purpose is and you're moving in it intentionally every single day, there's like, it almost takes control of every ounce of your being. Like there's no reason to be scared because it's like, well, at least I know what I'm supposed to be doing. There's no reason to feel like a failure because it's like, well, I may not have fallen exactly where I wanted to go, but it's still in the same direction of where I ultimately want to be heading, you know? So like all of the noise that is the background that comes with not knowing, you know, just kind of gets muted in the background because ultimately you know where you want to be headed.
Right. I had an episode not too long ago, I think like 2 days ago. I was just, you know, because I'm so into like my schedule, I'm so into, you know, being consistent and being disciplined and all that stuff. And a lot of us, we really get caught in these ideas of where we should be and what we should be doing. And I kind of fell into that a little bit 2 days ago. And it was it doesn't last as long as it used to because I kind of understand it, but it still happened. But when I came out of it, it was because I was, you know, cleaning up my space and I picked up the book that I wrote and it just all came to me at once. Like, bro, like you have a book, like you're an author, you have a one-on-one coaching program, you're developing an online course, like you're doing a lot, bro. Like you're under a lot of pressure and stuff, but you have things to show for what you've been doing, and it's time to give yourself some credit, give yourself a break, and, you know, just appreciate this. And it was a overwhelming feeling of gratitude, one of a collection. I'm like collecting these experiences where I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude. That was the last time that's happened. But I think that the point is to realize that no matter what you think or feel you should be, if you feel a gap, if you feel lack, it's an illusion because you're right where you're supposed to be. If you're not experiencing what you're experiencing right now, there's no way you'd be prepared for where you're going. You know, you can't skip the steps, right?
Right? I want to be like, it's a message. It's a message. Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it.
I'm seeing this by faith behind you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So this is my vision board. So in talking about leading in purpose and leading a happy, healthy life, I feel like a lot of people don't really take the time to evaluate what it is that they actually want with clarity. And for me, I'm a visual person. Like, I'm a visual learner. I'm a visionary as far as personality types. Like, I always see like the big picture. And sometimes breaking it down into tiny goals can be like a little difficult for me, but I always know exactly where I would like to be headed. So in order to support this, every year I do a vision board. But I have a whole vision boarding process. It's like a 7-step process. I've created a product around it on my site. It's called Vision Boarding in 7 Steps or Less. But aside from that, and I also have a workshop that I do. The point of the vision board is to help people recognize how they can visualize where it is that they want to go in order to implement those little steps to carry out on a daily basis. So every year I have one based on a theme for the year. Last year it was surrender, which is where the magic happened for me. Like the year before that, it was based around Ephesians 3:20, you know, about receiving immeasurably more than I could ask or imagine, you know. But this year has been by faith. So I'm like really stoked. And it's also based on Hebrews 11:1. There's like a whole situation around that. Like, when God speaks, he speaks. I'm really excited about it. But yeah, it's like a 7-panel. Like, look, I love a good vision. Like,
oh man, that's official.
Official, you know, can't do it any other. But it's like broken down into different sections that you can focus on, like health and wellness, family life or relationships, and then like, this is my fun section. This is basically like my life as far as my business journey and what I ultimately envision for my life for the year 2020 and beyond. And so this is just really helpful in just helping me make sure that I'm staying on track and creating what I want, and also keeping in mind the things that the Lord has in store for me based on what he's told me and promises that are mine to claim. But the reason why I chose by faith this year was because there's a lot that I have in mind for the year. There are a lot of messages that I've been given, and ultimately all of it comes down to faith. Like, what will I be believing him for? What will I be trusting him for? And all of those things will happen by faith. And it's crazy because it's already going down. Okay.
Yes,
like, I had my first TV segment today by faith. Okay.
Congratulations. Yes, indeed.
By faith. Yeah.
Yes,
So
indeed.
vision boards are very powerful tools.
Right. They said, I said that the age of hustling is dead. This is the age of alignment. And from looking at your vision board, I see the alignment. And for those that are just tuning into the audio alone, they couldn't see it. This is the most comprehensive vision board I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's like a separate, an entire separate vision board for each section. You know, so it's very in tune, and I know that is a powerful manifesting tool for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And you got to put it somewhere where you can see it every day. That's the thing. People make vision boards and then they like tuck them in the corner. So like, it's really cute. So I can keep it somewhere where it's attractive and I actually engage with it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. What is that the only thing that you use to manifest? The only tool that you use for manifestation?
No, I use the Bible.
Okay.
And devotions. I actually have a devotional that I read every single morning. If I don't read it like one morning, and it's really become a habit and a practice of mine, because for a couple of years, or for a lot of years, I didn't. I just got into it about 2 years ago, and it's like made such a difference. And just being able to ground in gratitude every morning and being able to recognize what the promises are that I have to hold on to for manifesting, you know, because manifesting is basically just speaking into life what you want, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's really hard for us to really believe those things. But as we like get into God's word, there are so many promises there that line up with what we want, even 2,000 or 3,000 years later. You know, it's a matter of recognizing that those same promises and those same miracles that he did for them, like, you know, parting the Red Sea or the River Jordan, like, what? You know, thinking about those things. If he can do that for them, he can put me in a magazine, you know?
Yes.
he could like help me manifest my $1 million in a couple years, or turn me into a multimillionaire. You know, it's not beyond him to do any of those things. So just reading the word and then speaking those same scriptures and those promises over my life, and visualizing it in those spaces is a tool that I use. In addition to that, calendars are very helpful, just so that you can keep your timeline straight. And yeah, those are like the main ones, I would say.
Absolutely. What would you say is the biggest challenge you had to overcome as an entrepreneur?
Oof. Discipline. Discipline. As an entrepreneur, like, one of the greatest things is that you get to do what you want and you get to create what you want. But sometimes you want to create a lot at once, and you also want to do it all like right now. You want to see the results of everything right now. So for a really long time, I felt like I was doing a lot of stuff, but without structure. And it really took me having to like do work with other people in order for me to realize the things that were my strengths and things that I could let go. So I guess in addition to discipline, also just like relinquishing control so that I can accept help. That's another big one.
Right, relinquishing control so you can accept help. Does that also involve like allocating jobs to other different people?
Yeah, allocating jobs, like outsourcing, and like trusting that people's work is going to be what, like, up to your standards. Because as an artist, because I am an art, like I make jewelry, I write, I like draw sometimes when I feel like it, you know, like I'm a very creative person. So I enjoy the creative process, and I also enjoy working with other people who are creative. So as far as the outsourcing piece, like sometimes that doesn't so much bother me as much as like just getting to a point of being like, all right, I no longer am going to like bog down my time doing this thing that I'm not the greatest at. Like, I could do it, but it's not my ministry. Like, I need to let it go so that someone who does it in excellence can handle it. That was something that I really had to learn.
That's super powerful. That's super powerful. Now, a lot of the times, you know, from personal experience, I'm sure you share the experience that when you want to allocate a job to somebody, or when you want to call on somebody else's help or assistance, it probably involves an investment. And that's a difficult thing for a lot of us to get over. Do we have any tips or insight on how to bring yourself to a place where not only are you asking for help, but you're willing and ready to invest in that help?
Yes. So if you're looking for tips and tricks, because it's all about the live rich movement, right? The live rich movement, I didn't even state this yet, but it's not about having money. It's about living in purpose, faith, and passion. So in considering that, when it comes to, I guess, getting help from other places, there's one, the need to ask, right? Sometimes we just don't want to admit that we need the help when we do. As far as the tips and tricks and the investment piece, what I would like to offer to your audience and people who are watching is to tap into your resources around you. So, like, the first thing that usually comes to mind is monetary compensation, but for a lot of people, you have the resources that you need and the people around you. Like, the greatest resources that we have are free. Or like close to free, you know, or requiring of nothing more than our time, you know. So what I would like to offer is that you look to the people around you. You know, you may have a sibling in your circle or a best friend or something that has the exact thing that you need in your life. Like, starting off when I was doing my videos, because I'm also an on-air host, I was trying to get my branding together for all of my stuff, and I needed a logo. And I was on Fiverr, I was on Upwork or whatever, you know, like all those types of places. Meanwhile, my brother is a whole graphic designer and illustration artist, you know? So it took me a while just mustering up the courage, and he's my younger brother, but he's so skilled, so talented, so wise. But it took me like mustering up the courage to ask him if he could help me so that I didn't have to invest this money necessarily in another place where I may not even be satisfied with the work, but I know his work, I trust it, and I like it, you know? So like just stuff like that. Like if you're going somewhere and you need your makeup done, like maybe your sister is a makeup artist. Now I'm just like telling my story. Like my she does makeup, you know? And so when I've had to do like campaign shoots and stuff, like she's basically my makeup artist, you know? So just use the resources around you, like tap into the gifts of those around you, because while sometimes you may not be able to offer the monetary piece up front, which will not always be the case, like, you know, you're going to be getting the coins eventually. You're also supporting them and helping them engage with their craft and their purpose and their passion. And then, I mean, the best form of compensation I would say is that you could give them is talking about it. Like share what it is that they've done, because it's also benefiting their business as well. Like if someone's like, oh, I like your makeup, thank you, my whoever did it, you know, head over to their site, book a session with them, and it's great word of mouth advertising for them, which will ultimately lead to them making more money as well. So just sharing your gifts, like share your gifts.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good to go. Yo, super good insight. I appreciate you so much. I know we can talk about it forever, but it's about that time. So before I wrap up, I do want to give you the opportunity to share one thing that you think everybody should know when making a transition from employee to entrepreneur.
Ooh, the one thing that you should know to make the transition from it. I would say the one thing that you should know is that you have the ability to create whatever it is that you want to create. So have clarity about what that thing is. Don't just like have a generalized idea of the direction you want to go in, you know, because you can grow through the process of getting to that clarity, but it just makes things a lot easier. It saves you a lot of time. It saves you a lot of money. It saves you a lot of energy if you're just very clear on what it is that you want to do. And whatever that thing is should be aligned with who you are and what you do best at your core. Because again, it'll save you time, money, and energy. And not only that, it'll be something that's done in excellence. It'll be more authentic. It'll be more engaging. And that will ultimately lead you to the consumers that need whatever it is that you have to offer.
Absolutely. All day and tomorrow. Beautiful stuff. So thank you for talking with us today. I want you to give us, you know, where we can connect with you, what you're working on, and how can we support the Live Rich movement.
Ooh, okay, thank you. So you can connect with me on my site, ericalasan.com. You can connect with me on Instagram at Erica Lasan, and on Facebook at Querica by Erica Lasan. Some things that I'm working on, I'm like super stoked about, is that my podcast, The Live Rich Movement, should be coming back out in the next couple of months. But I've also been putting together these virtual fiestas during this quarantine time, which has been so dope. Oh my gosh, like every Saturday night at 8:30, people come on out to my living room and I meet them wherever they are, and we dance, we chat, we engage in conversation with new people. And it's been really beautiful because it started off again as an accidental thing, kind of, but it's really turned into something that promotes joy and happiness during this time, as well as connection, which is what I think we're really making the most of in this time. So I would love to encourage everybody to come on out, including you, to a virtual fiesta on Saturday. Come hang out, listen to some music, and meet some new faces in different spaces. Yeah, that's basically it.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's so much fun. Oh my goodness. Live and joy, y'all. That's all we can do in these times. Do what makes you happy.
All right, guys. So that was the episode with Erica Lasan, the founder and CEO of the Live Rich movement, who's here to help you align with your passion and your purpose. Love, love. Be well. Don't forget to have the guts to follow your guts. Peace.